consider P and Q and A and B. That's our premise, and then the conclusion we want to draw is that Q and B is true. So say you were given this problem to do in your homework. Your premise is P and Q and A and B, and your conclusion that you have to draw is Q and B is true. So how would you go about proving this? Well, first of all, let's put it into our standard format. Let's give it a scope line. So here I'm going to erase Q and B, draw myself a scope line, put Q and B at the bottom because that's the conclusion I want, and number, and then call this our assumption. Whatever premises you have become your assumptions. Okay, so now, what rules can I use to get from there to here to prove this is true? So I can start by looking at the conclusion and seeing what symbols I see in the conclusion. And right now, what I see is a conjunction. I see that Q is true and B is true. So I don't see Q and B as a chunk anywhere up there, so I figure I'm going to have to introduce that conjunction. So I write .I conjunction introduction. So what do I need for that rule? I need each piece separately. So I need to get myself a Q somehow, and I need to get myself a B somehow, so I can put them together with conjunction introduction. Okay, so I figured that part out. Now I have to figure these parts out separately. Let's start with Q. How am I going to get a Q? I look up there and go, oh look, there's a Q, but it's attached to a P, and that whole thing is attached to an AB. So maybe to get Q, I would get it by conjunction elimination, because it's attached to a whole lot of things using conjunctions. So if I got conjunction elimination, I need an expression with Q in it with a conjunction attaching it to something else. And what I see is that, P and Q. So maybe if I just had P and Q, I could prove that just Q is true. So how am I going to get P and Q? Well, I look up on line number 1, and there it is, attached to everything else. So I can detach it using conjunction elimination, again, from line 1. Okay, here we have line 2, line 3. I got the Q from eliminating it from this conjunction. So that came from line 2. All right, so I've got my Q. Now I need to get my B. I can get that the same way. I see it's attached to an A, which is attached to all this. So first I'll separate out the A and B, conjunction elimination, line 1. And now from that, I can take the B out, conjunction elimination again, this time from line 4. Finish numbering. And then finally, to justify this conjunction introduction, I say I got a Q, and I got a B, got the Q from line 3, then I got the B from line 5. So that is an example of using the conjunction introduction and conjunction elimination rule.